I'm Morgan Turner, Health Education Assistant at the Human Development Institute and Special Olympics athlete and athlete ambassador. This series, titled Morgan's Musings, is dedicated to learning about disability, health, advocacy, and leadership from all different types of people. We will talk with disability self-advocates, caregivers, and parents, and people that work with individuals with disabilities. We hope this series of interviews help teach you to become a leader and a self-advocate in your own unique way. Hey, my name is Morgan Turner. Welcome back to another episode of Morgan's Musings. I'm here today interviewing my good friend for about 3 or 4 years, Dylan Kissak. Dylan,
Hey,
thanks for letting me interview you today.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name's Dylan Kissak. I am a special education teacher at Morton Middle School here in Lexington, and I'm also a basketball coach. I coach girls and boys basketball. I'm originally from the Illinois area, the Chicago suburbs, and I moved down here to Kentucky to go to the University of Kentucky. So there I majored in special ed, and then that brought me here to Morton.
You were also at the University of Kentucky. You were a president for the UK Best Buddies program, right?
I was, yes. Yeah, Best Buddies is an international nonprofit organization that works to facilitate one-to-one friendships, integrated employment, and leadership opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's where I met you.
That's right.
Yep.
So do you have a favorite part about your job here at Morton Middle School?
Definitely the kids. The kids are by far my favorite part. I definitely would not do this job if it weren't for the kids. I love the kids. I love working with kids and with people with disabilities. There's a lot of things in my job that I have to do that aren't necessarily fun outside of the kids.
Right.
And so putting those kids at the center of what I do is really makes it enjoyable. And so they're definitely my favorite part.
One thing I'm guessing you don't like is coming here on summer day.
Sure.
When there's no school.
Yeah, having to be here with no kids is nice sometimes. But yeah, being here over the summer, a lot of people think that teachers just get breaks over the summer, and that is true. We get a really nice break. But a lot of teachers deserve that break, seeing what they go through during the school year and what I go through during the school year. A lot of times it's a nice break. And then we're in here throughout the summer working on our classrooms for next year. Once this past school year ends, I pretty much clean the room and then start working to next year. So,
did you always want to work with people with disabilities?
I did not actually always want to work with people with disabilities. I originally went into UK thinking I was going to be a communications major and work in some type of media or something like that. And then I just kind of didn't know what I wanted to do and was at a little bit of a loss. And I thought back to when I was in middle school. Actually, I was in the Beta Club and went over to an elementary school next door and worked with students with disabilities in an adapted PE class. And I really enjoyed that. Had a lot of fun. I was paired up with a buddy in that, and him and I became really tight, really good friends. And so after going through that, when I was in college, I thought about what I've done that has brought me a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, and that I thought I might want to do for a career. And I thought back to that, and then I discovered Best Buddies like we talked about, and then we met, and I made so many good friends through that, and it kind of just took off from there, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do, is work with people with disabilities.
Awesome. Can you tell us about Best Buddies and kind of the goal into the future?
Sure. The ideal goal of Best Buddies is to actually not have Best Buddies around anymore.
Right.
Just because Best Buddies is supposed to include others, it's all based on inclusion. And so including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And at the University of Kentucky, we matched up adults with disabilities and college students in one-to-one friendships, just to really create that inclusion and create that bond. And then we would also hang out as like a big group of friends at least once a month, twice a month. We'd go to UK sporting events. We would go out to eat. We would go to movies. We did all sorts of different things, just like any other group of friends. But the goal of Best Buddies is to create that inclusion and to ideally in the future get rid of itself by just facilitating those friendships and allowing people to make those friendships naturally. They always strive to include people with disabilities and to just make them a part of everyone's lives, because they already are a part of everyone's lives, you know? So that's the ideal goal.
What does advocacy mean to you, and why do you think it's important?
To me, advocacy means being able to express what you want, what you need, and kind of just being in control of your life, being in control of your situation, whether it's a current one, future one, what's going on. I think advocacy is super important. A lot of times people kind of assume things for individuals with disabilities.
Right.
They assume they know what they want. They assume what they like or what they don't like, especially individuals that are nonverbal, that don't communicate with words. A lot of people just assume, like, oh, they like this, oh, they want this. And a lot of times that's not the case. Even individuals that don't communicate with words, they all still communicate. And so sometimes, even though it takes a little bit more effort to understand an individual, or to really get that communication out of them and see their preferences and what they want and what they need, it's worth that effort, because like I said, advocacy is super important. And I think it's really important for everyone, but especially individuals with disabilities, to be in control of their lives in some way, whether it's controlling what they want to do for a job or a career, controlling what they want to eat for lunch that day, just being able to control what's going on a daily basis. And a lot of times that communication helps them control that, and will ideally make them a lot happier in their daily lives. So advocacy is super important.
Agreeing with you on that, and also it's important to, like you said, for the nonverbal people, they still communicate. It just might be different how me and you will communicate. So I think it's important for someone to understand someone that's nonverbal, and he or she can be a self-advocate, so he or she will actually know what this person that's nonverbal wants.
Right, yeah, definitely. Well, I always think of students, but individuals that are nonverbal definitely communicate. I have students that are nonverbal, and they definitely communicate every day, just like the rest of us do. So like I said, taking that extra effort, or really just trying to get that communication out, or to get to know the person a little bit before you assume what they want or don't want, or ask if there's someone with them, like their parent or their brother, sister, their loved one. If you ask them and just really show that you're trying to communicate and trying to see what that person wants, just allowing someone to advocate for themselves is a huge deal.
What do you think makes a good leader?
That's a good question. I think being able to step up, especially when things are difficult, doing the right thing when it's not always the easy thing, I think, especially in my mind, makes a good leader. Leading by example is another one. Like if you tell someone to do something, but then you don't do the same thing, or you're not showing a good example for other people, then I think that probably doesn't correlate. So definitely stepping up when it's difficult, because a lot of times that is tough. And then leading by example. Like if I am trying to teach my students something, or showing them appropriate behavior or how to communicate or something like that, but then I don't exhibit that same behavior, that good example, then I'm not a good leader to them, if that makes sense. So
Yeah. What do you do to stay healthy?
nothing. I'm just kidding. I try to exercise as much as I can, especially being a teacher and being a basketball coach. I have a lot going on, but I try to exercise as much as I can. I go for runs. I have a little gym in my apartment complex, and so I try to exercise in there. And sometimes it's a lot easier to stay healthy than people think, whether it's just walking. Like a lot of my students will just, if we need to exercise, we'll go for a walk. People can do body weight exercises like push-ups or pull-ups or sit-ups, that type of stuff, where you don't need any weights or don't need much space. And then I also try to eat healthy too. I know for individuals with disabilities, eating healthy and maintaining an appropriate weight is a big deal a lot of times. And so just trying to eat healthy, even if it's cutting out like one cheeseburger or one pizza for a salad or a sandwich, that might be a little bit healthier. And so I try to eat healthy to set good examples for my students and for other individuals. But I think sometimes it's a lot easier to at least be on the path towards good health than some people might think.
And what do you think? Everybody thinks that when they hear healthy, they just think of being active. Is there any other things you do to stay healthy, not just like physically, but like mental and all of that stuff, like hanging out with friends and stuff?
That's a good point. Mental health is a really big deal, especially now. And I think, hanging out with friends, asking for help, I think is just a big one if you have any mental health issues or if you're just having a bad day. Everyone has good and bad days.
Right.
And so asking a friend for help or a parent, a loved one, brother, sister, anyone that's important in your life, just asking for help or saying like, hey, can we talk? And just trying to work out whatever you're going through or whatever's bothering you that day. That's a really good point. Mental health is a big deal.
Yes.
But I think in addition to that, staying active, like you said, and eating a little bit healthier, those can kind of help just at least make you feel better. I don't know about necessarily mentally, but like it makes your body feel a little bit better. Sometimes you have more energy. And so I think if you do both of those things together, that a lot of times that can help.
Definitely. So for someone that wants to be a special education teacher, what advice can you give them if they don't know where to start?
I think the best place to start is probably either trying to get in a school and maybe observe a special ed class or special ed teacher, or depending on where you're at in your life, like if you're in high school, try to reach out to a special ed teacher. We love when students come to us and they want to learn more about special ed or learn more about our students. And so if you're in a school, try to reach out to a special ed teacher and learn more. Another great place to start is just trying to meet people with disabilities. Again, if you're in a school, just trying to make friends with students that may be in a special education class. Just making friends with people that are different than you a lot of times, trying to have an open mind. I know that's a really big thing. The more open your mind is and the more willing you are to learn about other people or about people with disabilities, the better off you'll be, I think.
I think that second one that you said is real important because I know when I was in school, everyone didn't really talk to anyone with a disability. They just see them walk in the hallway and, as a group and stuff, and no one like reached out. But then I'm a Special Olympics athlete, so I would see some of these people like outside of school and the way they act in school and then the way they act outside of school. They're really cool to be around.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of times too, people don't really know how to interact with people with disabilities sometimes. Like they're nervous to interact, or like we talked about people that are nonverbal, they're just not sure how to approach someone like that.
Right.
Or someone that might be a little bit different or communicate a little bit differently than them. And so I think sometimes it's not necessarily that they don't want to, but they just don't know how to. And so I think that it's really important to at least try, because the more that you try and the more that you are willing to reach out and have an open mind, like we said, the better off you'll be. And everyone wants to have friends, everyone wants to communicate, everyone wants to socialize.
Same thing with people with disabilities.
Right, exactly. So everyone wants all of that. And so I think just trying to reach out, like you said, especially in a school, whether it's elementary, middle, high school, college, everyone wants those things, and we're all a lot more similar than we are different. So,
do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Well, I don't know how much wisdom I can give you, but I'll try to give you some words. I think, like we talked about, being a leader and being able to step up when things are difficult, especially in the world of disabilities, being able to speak up for someone and advocate, like we said, especially if that person doesn't know how to advocate for themselves yet or hasn't been taught how to advocate. It's really important that someone is advocating for someone else, so that person can have control of their situation, like we talked about.
Right.
I think another important thing that we touched on was having an open mind and being willing to reach out to people with disabilities and being willing to make new friends and to talk to people that are a little bit different than you are. There's so many people in the world, and if we're able to reach out and connect with people that are different than us, then I think that that's super important, especially like we said, everyone wants to communicate, everyone wants to socialize, So don't be afraid to reach out. And if you look silly reaching out, then you look silly reaching out, you know?
Right.
It's okay to make mistakes, and the more that you try, the better off that everyone will be. I know you guys do a lot of work with universal design too, and so I think I have a different perspective because I'm in the special education world.
Right.
So I go places and I'm thinking about all that stuff anyways, and about how to make things accessible and how to adapt things. And this kind of goes along with having an open mind, but trying to think about other people in other situations. So whether it's people with disabilities thinking about, oh, this building's not accessible, like there's 2 staircases going into the building, there's no ramp. Like if I had a loved one in a wheelchair and they couldn't, or someone that couldn't do stairs, how are they going to get into the building, you know? And so thinking about those different things, and just trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes, I think that's a huge deal. No matter what walk of life you're in, just being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and trying to understand what someone else's life is like.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions we have, Dylan. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks again for watching. For more episodes of Morgan's Musings, you can go to our website, wellness4ky.org, or you can go to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
See ya.